Can you hear me? Yes, there we go. So, looks like everything's cool on that front. So yeah, as I was saying just before while I was muted, kia ora bosses and bossettes. Bruh, that one piece of hair that's like off in the atmosphere. Just like lonely individual traveling in the wind like a plastic bag. No jokes, I'm not a plastic bag. Not like Katy Perry said in that freaking video. You know, shout out to you, Katy Perry, but I don't want to be no plastic bag. You know, maybe you can relate, but I don't know if I can relate to that. Maybe when I was a kid, but then I grew up and I started to become aware of myself, and I was like, bitch, I don't feel like no plastic bag. No, no. So, as you guys can tell from the title, we are going to be talking about, well, that's one of the things we're going to be talking about, is the fact that we are in Pisces sun. Of course, we've already gone through that. Well, lorikeet season, you know, because I noticed the lorikeets come out like during this time of the year. Just when we started to get into Pisces season, that's when I started to see more of the lorikeets. So I started to put the two and two together. I was like, okay, there must be some kind of correlation between those energies with the rainbow lorikeet and the Pisces energy. Because rainbow lorikeets, like, they're very playful. They're very, like, you know, beautiful. No, I don't know if beautiful is the right word that I'm trying to use to describe Pisces right now. Because Pisces, oh, y'all can be, no jokes. You know, anybody can be ugly, anybody can be beautiful, regardless of what sign you're in. So I don't want people to hear this video and then think, oh, this is why I don't even like astrology, because people just say that Pisces are all this and Geminis are all that. Well, no, people don't say that. People that you've been paying attention to say that. So that leads to a lot of people kind of getting discouraged from astrology. But generally among astrologers, like, we don't even consider that to be astrology. When you get into like biases, start to say one sign's better than the other, one sign's the worst sign and this sign's the best sign, like, that is all what I would term, and I'm sure a lot of people who do astrology that are actually deep into this shit would term that as toxic astrology. So it's not necessarily astrology, it's actually just a more toxic version that is used to cater to people's egos and help some people feel better about why maybe their relationship didn't work out, because then they can just say, oh, it was because this person was a Pisces, or it was because that person was an Aries. And so if I just say that I hate all Aries, then basically I just cured everything without actually getting to the root issue of the problem, which is what a lot of people struggle to do in this world. They just want to kind of like put band-aids over shit, or maybe sometimes not even a band-aid. They just want to put like some kind of like invisible barrier where you can just pretend that it doesn't exist, you know what I mean? And then you can go on your merry way and just act like nothing happened while still experiencing the same thing that happened on a constant cycle. Like, see, I know what kind of things people are into, you know. I know what kind of thing, because I know myself, like, back when I was into that shit constantly, like, and even maybe in some slight small ways I'm still like healing and letting go of, but I'm not too focused on that. I'm more just focused on like, what am I doing now, you know, how am I gonna make things different now, like, rather than trying to think, oh, like, I've got this much to go, I've got this much to heal, I've got this much to, like, yeah, okay, but I don't need to make it my focus, you know. But anyways, with the rainbow lorikeets, you know, they've got that fun playful side, but then they also have that kind of crazy side, like that little bit of craziness to them, that little bit of loudness. So that's where that Jupiterian energy comes in with that rainbow lorikeet, that Pisces, you know, being the I don't know if they're like the dark side of Jupiter. I think they are, because they're more into the feminine, right? So being the dark side of Jupiter, it's like, you know, it's still that expansive Jupiterian energy, being able to stretch and expand into many different areas, many different aspects, many different ways, but it's more in like a indirect feminine type of way, right? So it may be more sometimes chaotic or seem like sometimes more random. This is why, you know, sometimes if you're a Pisces, you might experience some stuff like in your life where you see yourself as a lot more chaotic or random than say another individual, and you might even resonate with Sagittarius in that way. So you might be around a lot of Sagittarius and you kind of resonate with each other, where Pisces, you can be a little bit emotionally expansive and random. Sometimes people will like to kind of coin that as well, with the emotionally expansive as being like you like maybe blow things out of proportion. That's more of a Sagittarius kind of trait, but Pisces can exhibit those traits too, you know. So, and then because we've got the moon in Cancer, that's like the things you're comfortable with, how your emotions are, you know. So it's going to be like feeling comfortable with acting on your imaginations, because what is the sun? The sun is our actions, how we see things, you know, how we choose to express. And our moon, what is that? That's our emotions. That's how we react to things. That's how the world we are in, basically. And so when you're in a world of, what is it? Cancer, emotions, you know, feeling comfortable, and then it's expressed through the action of Pisces, which is dreams and imaginations, you know, because that's how you, if you expand on something like an emotion internally, if you expand on your own internal waters, your own internal emotions, this can help you to create an imagination. And so this is how you get these kind of energies and why they explain them in these ways. So let me turn the light on. So yeah, that was one thing. Honestly, I just wanted an excuse to give something as the title, because there are so many different names coming up in my mind before I did this video. I was like, bro, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm sitting here. I know if I sit here for any longer, I'm gonna just keep finding different titles that might be better than the last one. So I was like, bitch, just do a fucking title. Like, who gives a fuck? You know, because I'm trying to get into that more who gives a fuck energy, which is also related to the fact that we are experiencing Jupiter in Gemini, right? With Jupiter in Gemini, Jupiter likes to experience. It doesn't like to think about shit. It doesn't like to plan. It just likes to learn through experience, trial and error type shit. Gemini, not so much in that ball game. Gemini is more, I need to plan it, I need to think it, I need to know that it's gonna go out the way that I initially imagined it, envisioned it. Or maybe, you know, Gemini can still be a spontaneous, don't get me wrong. But generally speaking, Gemini does not like to just jump headfirst into an experience. No air sign really does. But, you know, they can, depending if you have like other signs in your chart and shit like that. But because Jupiter is in Gemini, and they're both, Gemini is opposite to Sagittarius, which is Jupiter's, where Jupiter is home, I'm pretty sure, something like that. It's one of those words. Then this causes us to feel like we need to plan or overthink or like stuff like that before we jump into an experience. But Jupiter itself just wants us to experience. So that's what I've noticed with this, like however long it's been. It's been a few months, probably even longer, where we've been in Jupiter and Gemini. I think it's been even, yeah, like 3 or 4 months, maybe even longer than that. I'm not even sure. Like, time is not necessarily a priority in terms of me keeping track of it, like, because it can shift and change all the time. You know, one day might feel longer, one day might feel shorter. So paying attention to time in the physical way is not necessarily something that I put high importance to, you know, because I notice stuff that, you know, physically I might have experienced it in 2 years' time. Spiritually, that experience itself was probably 2 years times 10. So like what, 20 years in my spiritual experience of that. So when it comes to the physical experience of the years, I'm not like placing that much importance on that, because spiritually, I know everything happens spiritually first, and then mentally, and then physically. AKA, you can't act without initially first having the thought that you wanted to act, and you can't have the thought to want to act without you being aware that you can think for in the first place. So regardless of how you look at it, there's not really much of a point in going by the physical representation of something when spiritually is where it comes from. You know what I mean? So then you'll be able to kind of get, like, you'll be actually in the, that's what the real world is, when we're actually experiencing things from closer to the spirit, or closer at least to the mind, you know. If you can't get that close to the spirit, because a lot of people are just lost into the mind, but the closest you can get to the spirit from where you're at in the mind, and then ideally, you know, you get closer and closer based on, you know, how light you are able to be as a spirit, and how you're not able to let yourself get encaged and entrapped into mental forms and shit. So when you do this, you'll be able to see things a lot clearer, because you're actually in the real world. You know, you're not in the synthetic physical world, which is just an after effect. It's like you trying to learn about the cause by looking at the effect, rather, which is what a lot of people in this world are lost into, where if they just go back to the cause and they pay attention to what the cause is, you'll be able to learn about the effect a lot more quicker, and the cause. Whereas if you're trying to learn about the cause through the effect, you're going to have to learn about the effect, and then you have to learn about the cause based on whatever effect you've just learned about. And even then, you might not get a full grasp of what actually is the cause, because you're learning about it through the effects lens. You know what I mean? So when it comes to that, like I was saying, I look at everything from the spiritual first. So there was a point that I had for why I even mentioned that in the first place. So, time. It was, yeah. So when I experience time spiritually in one way, or mentally in one way, then I know that that is actually what I experience, not what the physical representation shows me. Because the physical representation shows me, bitch, it's only been 2 fucking years. The spiritual, the mental, shows me that, bitch, I've been through many, 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 many years of experience. A lot more years of experience than people will be able to see and point at and be like, oh yes, look. You know, unless they're spiritually in tune, they'll be able to see my mentality, and they'll be like, okay, yeah, this guy's clearly been through quite a few experiences for him to even be talking about this in a specific way. So yeah, when it comes to that, I just pay attention to how it has a representation spiritually or mentally, rather than physically. And then, yeah, when it comes to me making the title for the video, I was like, fuck it, let me just do this title and I'll just talk about whatever I want to talk about. That's basically big roundabout Gemini tangent way of saying, yes, I did do this video and I'm just going to talk about whatever the fuck I want to talk about. Basically, essentially. So we're 13 minutes in, damn, like 13 Masonic number, bitch, get the fuck out of here. I'm not a Mason. Fuck that shit. I mean, unless in my past life I just didn't know, but I definitely haven't got no check. I haven't got no freaking family shit in my name from no Masonic Lodge. Haven't got no motherfucking shit that even represents that I am part of that. So, you know, I've yet to find out. If the Masons just try to come and recruit me, then I'm just gonna have to chalk it up to maybe I was a Mason in my past life. But as of now, no. No. That's one thing that a lot of people don't realize. It's likely that if you even get like approached by people like asking you to join or be recruited into Masonry, that's because you are a Mason. They don't just recruit people because like they just feel like it. I mean, maybe like I could be wrong. Don't get me wrong. I'm not no expert, but I think it's highly likely that because if you even got asked to get recruited as a Mason, that's because you are a Mason. Like, in your past life, your characteristics, your actions, who you are as a person, was a Mason. So they came to you now because they recognize the energy within you. You know what I mean? So same if you don't get recruited or you don't even get seen. That's because you are not a Mason. You know what I mean? So they're not going to come and recruit you, especially if you're like against their ideals. Maybe if like they would recruit you if you weren't against their ideals, but you weren't a Mason. You know what I mean? Like that'd be a exception to that, I guess. But yeah, I also wanted to talk about a little bit about like me quitting cigarettes because I thought, you know what, someone might actually benefit from this, and you know what, this might be actually better to do a whole video separately on itself. But regardless, I'll just chuck it in here anyway. So when it comes to me quitting cigarettes, because I used to be one of them smokers, like I would smoke, I don't know, quite a lot a day. I don't know how much is a lot for most people, but for me it was a lot. So like 10 to 20 smokes a day, depending on the day. Ideally though, once I started to get like really bad side effects of smoking cigarettes, I just started to try to limit myself to 10 to 15, you know. So I wouldn't go up to the 20s, but like 15 is probably the most that I would probably go to. But I used to be like heavy into that shit. Like I'd be even beyond that, like I would always mix it with my weed and stuff like that. So for me, I noticed that the easiest way for me when I stopped smoking was actually when I started to get my mentality right, first of all. Because when I started to figure out my own triggers, the things that made me reactionary, the things that put me over the edge and all that kind of stuff, that's when it really started to reveal itself. It was almost like it was easy, like, and this is what I noticed about like doing things spiritually and mentally first. When you do it actually spiritually and mentally first, aka you do the shadow work, you take care of your own triggers and pay attention to why you react a certain way that you do and all of that stuff. This allows you, when the time does come, it becomes easier for you to do whatever you were trying to do before. Like, let's say you were trying to quit a bad habit like cigarettes. When the time comes, it's like your body will just naturally not want it. Like, that's at least what happened to me because my body started rejecting it. And then I started to notice, I was like, oh, this is because I've been doing a lot of work on myself. I've been doing a lot of shadow work. I've been paying attention to my own triggers, my own shadow self, you know, like the parts of myself that I try to hide or reject or deny, you know, or that I'm shameful about. All of this kind of stuff allowed me to, when I actually did it, I would actually experience my body would reject certain things that before I knew were bad for me, but I couldn't find the strength or the willpower to actually detach from it. So I would just keep doing it, or I would try for a little bit, and then I'd be like, "Bitch, I can't be fucked. I'm giving." But it got to the point where my body just started rejecting cigarettes. So I just was like, "Oh, let me just hold on. There's a reason this has been happening," and I saw it as an opportunity. You know, because a lot of people might hear it, see that, and then be like, "Oh my gosh, I can't smoke cigarettes, but I'm addicted. But like, what the fuck do I do?" For me, I was like, "Okay, this is clearly an opportunity." And if I allow myself and even psych myself up, I literally psych myself up even more too. Because in my mind, I was like, okay, if my body's rejecting it, I need to psych up my mental to be more in line with my body. Because my body is like, bleh, you know, like my body just does not like it. So I was like, okay, let me pretend like my mentality is like that too. And because my body was already like that, I felt like that would cast a pretty good illusion for my mind to be able to be like, oh yeah, I don't like that. So every time when I would have one and I would get that reaction, like, ugh, I would like in my mind, I would force myself to feel like kind of yuck about it. You know what I mean? And then I was like, okay, just to kind of psych myself up, I guess you could say, and just be like, no, like this is nasty. Like, can't you see this is nasty? Ugh. You know, like my body is doing this reaction, this negative reaction. It's nasty. Like, you know what I mean? I don't like that shit. That tastes disgusting. Like, mind you, it did taste disgusting, but I didn't care about that. You know what I mean? Because I'd gone so deep into that addictive state of mind where I was like, bitch, I don't give a fuck if it tastes disgusting, feels disgusting. I did not care because I was like, bitch, I want to smoke, you know? So when I started to do that, I really genuinely noticed myself actually starting to pull away from it. And I was like, you know what? Like, I don't really like this that much anymore. It's kind of disgusting. Like, it's just how my body was acting. Like, that's kind of starting to be the way that I see it. And that allowed me to pull away, cut down at first. At first, I just cut down, but eventually it got to the point where I was like, bitch, like, I just don't even want it. Like, and then I even, like, had a few weeks where I stopped doing it, and then I was like, let me try again. And, like, low key, I was trying to convince myself to hate it too. But when I did try it again, I did not like it. But I think that was also partly due to the fact that I was psyching myself up to hate it as well, you know? Whereas when I was younger and I first started smoking, I wasn't really focused on that. I was just like, bitch, like, I'm probably gonna hate it, you know what I mean? But I didn't really like convince myself of it. I didn't have that strength of faith and belief and imagination. So yeah, then eventually I just stopped doing it because I was like, bitch, what's the point in constantly going back? I know I'm gonna fucking hate it. I know it's gonna taste disgusting, and I know it's so bad for me, you know? So like, then eventually, like, I couldn't even handle it in my mix with my weed and stuff, so I just stopped putting it in there. Honestly though, like, I will say this, there was a few exercises I had to do that really helped me with my cravings too, because there's still that craving side where your body is like, bitch, like, I just want some. But for me, I noticed there was one, like, with the pressure points on the ears, like rubbing up and down the ears with the pressure points, you got to really like rub it hard to the point where your ears are basically hot. And what this does is it's meant to stimulate each part of your body, like, because each of them is a pressure point and represents like a different part of your body to activate it basically. So when you rub it up and down, you're just activating whichever parts of your body. And so whichever any part of your body that wishes, because sometimes your body becomes reliant on activating certain things in your body based on certain substances you are, into. So you massaging your ears, you're basically activating that manually. And so your body doesn't feel like it has to go to that thing in order to activate that, whether that be relaxation, whether that be circulation, whatever it may be. So on top of that as well, like I used to do, like replace my habit as well with other stuff instead of like, because I couldn't always smoke weed. Sometimes if I was craving a cigarette, I would replace it with a piece of food. I would replace it with a cup of tea, go outside and have a cup of tea. Anything that I could to replace it, basically. I would just see if I could replace it with something. But it always involved the mouth, the act of the mouth, because I remember that I learned something from this other lady who cooked, who quit, sorry, not cooked. And she had told me something similar, that it was heavily based on our food addiction. And that's why a lot of us struggled with quitting, which would also make sense to me too, because I wasn't very addicted to food at the time. In fact, I was kind of like not eating regularly enough back then. A lot of times I would fast, not due to actually me wanting the health benefits, but largely due to my emotional and mental state not being in the best place. So I guess that was a blessing in disguise too, because that helped me to kind of get out of that food addiction a little bit. And then on top of that, we had like this other one, which was like you put your freaking thumb right here and you press it really hard, and then you like put your tongue into this webbed part of your mouth, and you do that, like press both of them hard. And that, like, I don't even know what that does, but I know it helped me. It really helped me to just get rid of the craving and the urge. So yeah, those are some of the things that helped me to quit cigarettes. Though I feel like I might go deeper into it on another video, depending how I feel. But at the same time, there's heaps of resources online and stuff like that. But that I try not to let that stop me though either, because like sometimes I think about it, I'm like, there's so many resources online, people can just search that, but there's still validity to, people's story, even if it might be mostly the same as other people's story. There's validity to it, so you gotta be open with yourself, be honest with yourself, like that, you know what I'm saying? So, but with the freaking back to the sun and the moon, we're going to be feeling comfortable to go for our dreams or imaginations. So your dreams or your imaginations have been not so pretty, you're going to be feeling comfortable to go do a lot of not so pretty things. And that may end up in you not like creating a comfortable environment for those around you, and also not being aware of how others and yourself are being like able to feel within that environment. So you may also make people feel trapped or restricted, because Pisces is a Jupiterian. And then also like you know, because it's in the moon with Cancer, this can represent like our home life and shit like that. So you could really affect your home life, the way your home is run, the way your home is in general, and that can put a negative impact on your overall home environment depending on how things go. But if your dreams and your imaginations have been in more of a positive space, right, then this is going to allow you to actually be able to, what's it called? This is going to allow you to actually be able to experience more positive outcomes from your dreams and imaginations. And so you won't be experiencing such of a negative outcome from everything. You'll actually be starting to experience like more positive shit. You know, like so, like Pisces, when Pisces is in the sun or even the moon, like some magical things can happen if you're in a positive space. Some magical things can happen in a negative space too, but those magical things won't be seen as magical. They'll just be seen as very, very hideous and something that you want to run away from. Like, get the fuck out of here, bitch. I'm a celebrity, get me out of here type shit. So it just depends on you, you know? You always get to choose your reality. You always get to choose what you experience. Just a lot of people don't realize this, so then they're like, oh my gosh, woe is me, I'm a victim, I can't stand my life is like this, my life is like that. But without realizing that it came from the root seed of you and your mentality, your feelings, your actions, and whatever else you chose to create as your reality. And that is why you keep experiencing bullshit. So, enough of that. I don't want to go too deep into that because it feels like repetitive type shit, you know what I mean? When it comes to astrology, but I like to put it out there just in case, you know, people are interested and people want to learn more about astrology. Can definitely be beneficial, but at the same time, you'll learn probably more about astrology experiencing life and learning about it firsthand through your own wisdom and knowledge and through your own study. So online can help with that, but generally speaking, I've learned more about astrology just based on like asking people's signs, paying attention to people's signs, going through the experience, and then after I've gone through the experience, I start to really see, oh, this, yeah, this sign is like that, and this sign is like that. And then even if I haven't actually specifically met many people from this specific sign, because I've learned about the other signs, I start to kind of put the two and two together, and I start to make the connections like that. But it takes years, you know, for me at least. Some people it might take shorter, but for me it took years just to be able to learn how to kind of correlate things like that. But, you know, we ain't got nothing but time, and time, like I was saying at the start of the video, is not always related to the physical. You could have been like, you know, physically it could have been 2 years, but spiritually and mentally it could have been long time. So, you know, it just depends on your own experience, right? This is why some people may be young as fuck, but seem like they know so much more. And then you probably think, oh, well, I wasted my time. Yeah, you might have, but also your time, your experience of time might have been completely different. They might have been alive for only XYZ years, but spiritually and mentally, they could have been experiencing many, many years in between those XYZ years. So you might just see your child and it's like, oh yeah, it's like it's only 2 years older. Babes, that child has been through 50 years of fucking warfare and blah. No. But you get the idea. You get the idea. We got this card right here, baby. Six of Cups, right? So this is about nostalgia. Revisiting old memories, right? So there's some kind of not being able to let go energy. Could be positive, negative, but faced out to the left, babe. So that's like you separating from some kind of thing. Like maybe you're separating from an old idea, an old imagination, which makes sense because with the Pisces sun and this sort of stellium-ish that we've got going on right now, we're separating from a lot of old dreams and imaginations that we've been experiencing, or old cycles, all that good shit that we're separating from, allowing us to be light as a bird, you know. So we're putting it into a lot of old cycles, and this is like the closing off kind of period because this is technically actually the end of the year, not like what the freaking government or whoever pushes the calendar, tries to say like Capricorn or December is the end of the year, right? Capricorn is Sagittarius. It's actually Pisces technically before we get into Aries, which is the start of the year, which is why it's the first sign in the zodiac. So it's like an ending of a cycle right now, and because we've got a few other planets in Pisces too, specifically Saturn, because Saturn is about cycles. So we're really putting an end to these cycles. We're really like sowing all the seeds that we're reaping all the seeds that we've sowed. I was going to say sowing all the seeds that we reap. Other way around. We're reaping all the seeds that we sow, and this is allowing us to be able to give birth to new seeds. So definitely once we reach the Aries season, good time to plant new seeds, to give birth to new ideas, right? All of these good shits.